The mining planet Rexer-9 was a world of extremes. Red dust storms whipped across jagged rock formations, and the rare crystals buried beneath the surface emitted a faint, dangerous radiation. Most humans stayed in the safety of the central colonies, where the air was filtered and the shelters were reinforced. But some, like Aaron, ventured into the alien sectors, where the Varelians worked. Aaron was a technician. Quiet, thoughtful, and precise, he preferred machines to people. He had grown up on a small colony on Mars, and had learned early that survival required both intelligence and caution. His current assignment was to repair a damaged power cord deep inside the Varelian sector. The human supervisors had warned him the Varelians do not like humans near their work areas. Respect their space or leave. Aaron packed his tools carefully, checking each device twice. He wore the standard protective suit, reinforced to withstand minor radiation. The helmet's visor glowed faintly green, scanning his surroundings as he left the human sector behind. The further he went, the more alien the landscape felt. Rocks shimmered under the light in unusual colors, and faint hums came from the crystals embedded in the walls. When he arrived at the reactor dome, the first thing he noticed was a figure standing near the entrance. She was tall, taller than most humans, with a graceful build and glowing blue skin. Her eyes were large and luminous, reflecting the lights from the dome. She moved with precision and confidence. Aaron froze. The human manuals had pictures of the Varelians, but none could capture their presence. She noticed him immediately and stepped forward. Her voice was sharp, carrying through the quiet hum of the reactor. "Touch me once, human, and you'll regret it." Aaron swallowed. Her warning was not playful. It carried power and danger as though she could enforce it. His hands hovered over his tools. "I am here to repair the power core," he said slowly. "I mean no harm." She studied him for a long moment. The hum of the reactor seemed to fill the silence between them. Finally, she nodded slightly but did not move aside. "The core is unstable. One wrong move, and it will explode. You humans do not understand the energy it holds." "I understand enough to fix it," Aaron replied, trying to keep his voice calm. He stepped closer, careful not to cross an invisible line. The Varelian raised her hand. A subtle gesture, and the air seemed to tense. "Do not touch anything that belongs to me until I say it is safe," she warned. Her tone softened just a fraction, revealing the faintest hint of concern. Aaron adjusted his tools, keeping them at a safe distance from her. He began scanning the damaged reactor. The readings were unstable. The core's energy levels fluctuated dangerously, and any mistake could destroy the dome and harm everyone nearby. "Why is it unstable?" he asked quietly. She did not answer immediately. Instead, she circled the core, her movements precise and controlled. "Something is wrong deep inside," she said finally. "I cannot risk touching it until the readings are clear. It has been like this for hours. If you interfere, you might trigger an accident." Aaron studied the instruments. He could see the pulse of energy from the core. It was erratic, like a heartbeat in distress. He knew waiting could be dangerous. He also knew that arguing with her would not help. Humans often tried to dominate situations, but experience had taught him that some problems required respect first. "I will follow your instructions," he said. "I only want to help." Her gaze lingered on him. There was a moment when her usual cool demeanor cracked slightly, revealing something deeper, fear perhaps, or exhaustion. She nodded again and moved to stand slightly to the side. "Be careful," she said. Aaron worked slowly, scanning every circuit and conduit. The core pulsed with energy, faint sparks dancing along the metal surfaces. He adjusted the calibration tools, his hands steady. Every now and then, he glanced at the Varelian. She watched him silently, her posture tense. He noticed small scars along her arms, faint marks that glowed slightly in the reactor light. He did not ask about them. Time passed in measured silence. Then, suddenly, a warning light flashed. Energy surged through the core, and the reactor shook violently. Aaron stumbled but held his tools tightly. The Varelian reacted instantly, placing a hand near the core. Blue energy flared along her fingers, stabilizing the surge. "You should not have come so close," she said sharply, though her voice carried no anger, only warning. "I had no choice," Aaron replied. "It would have exploded if I waited any longer." She lowered her hand slowly, and the glow faded. "Humans are reckless," she said. Then, more quietly, she added, "But some are not like the others." Aaron did not respond. He did not want to risk saying the wrong thing. He continued working, carefully stabilizing the readings. The surge passed, and the core's rhythm returned to normal. He finally exhaled, feeling a mixture of relief and awe. "You have skill," the Varelian said. "Few humans could handle this without causing harm." "I learned from experience," he said simply. He wanted to ask more about her scars, about her people, but he knew this was not the moment. The Varelian watched him for a long time. Then, without a word, she moved away, allowing him more space. Aaron realized that this was her way of showing trust. He had earned it in small measure, by respecting her warnings and acting with caution. As the sun of Rexernine dipped behind the jagged mountains outside, the dome was filled with a warm glow from the stabilized reactor. Aaron felt a sense of accomplishment, but also an unspoken tension. He knew this encounter was only the beginning. The Varelians did not easily trust humans, and yet something in her eyes hinted that change might be possible before leaving. He packed his tools carefully, ensuring no damage was done. She stood silently at the entrance, watching him. Her glowing blue skin shimmered in the dim light. "Do not return unless necessary," she said finally. "And remember, one wrong touch could cost more than you think." "I understand," he said. "I will be careful." He left the dome and stepped into the harsh winds of Rexernine. Dust whipped around him, and the sky was a deep red. The Varelian watched him from the dome entrance until he disappeared from sight. For Aaron, the day had been a mixture of fear, fascination, and relief. He had survived the first encounter, learned a little about the Varelian's power, and understood that trust had to be earned. But more than that, he felt a strange curiosity. Who was she? Why did she protect the reactor with such intensity? And why did her warning feel more like sorrow than anger? As he walked back toward the human sector, he realized that Rexernine held more mysteries than he had imagined. And somewhere deep inside, he knew he would return. Not because he had to, but because the encounter had stirred something inside him, a mix of respect, curiosity, and a need to understand the Varelian who had warned him so sharply that night. As he lay in the small quarters provided to human workers, he could not stop thinking about her. He remembered the glowing blue skin, the precise movements, the strength in her warning, and the faint flicker of something else beneath it. He realized that this planet was not just a place of work and danger. It was a place of discovery, and he was only beginning to discover what lay beyond the warnings, beyond the fear, and beyond the barrier between human and Varelian. The next day would bring new challenges. Power cores could fail again. Dust storms could sweep through without warning. And somewhere in the alien sector, she would be there, watching, waiting, guarding. Aaron knew that every decision from now on mattered. One wrong move could cost lives, or worse, destroy the fragile trust that had begun to form. As he drifted into a restless sleep, one thought remained clear. He could not ignore her warning. But he also could not ignore the pull of curiosity, the need to understand, and the silent hope that humans and Varelians could work together. The morning sun of Rexernine cast sharp shadows across the jagged rocks and crystal-lined cliffs. The air was dry and charged with a faint electrical hum from the minerals embedded in the ground. Aaron woke early, his mind still lingering on the encounter from the day before. The Varelian Sarah had left an impression he could not shake. Her warning, her glowing presence, and the faint sadness in her eyes haunted him. Aaron dressed quickly, checking his tools once more. Today, he had to return to the reactor dome. The core instability had not fully resolved. The human supervisors warned him that the dome could collapse if readings fluctuated again. But Aaron did not hesitate. He had a sense that understanding Sarah was as important as fixing the core itself. As he approached the alien sector, the Varelian appeared immediately. She stood near the dome entrance, her posture as rigid as yesterday. Her glowing blue skin reflected the rising sun, making her appear almost ethereal. "You are back," she said, her voice calm but wary. "The core remains unstable. Human presence complicates the readings." "I will follow your instructions," Aaron replied. "I only want to help." She studied him silently for a moment. Then she gestured with a hand, signaling him to stay behind a safety boundary. "You may observe," she said. "Do not touch anything until I permit it." Aaron nodded. From a distance, he watched her move. Sarah's actions were precise and deliberate. Every adjustment she made to the controls minimized the fluctuations in the core. Her hands glowed faintly blue as they hovered over the equipment, guiding the energy pulses safely back into rhythm. It was then that Aaron noticed the faint scars along her arms again. They ran in delicate patterns, almost like burns, but arranged symmetrically. His curiosity flared, but he resisted the urge to ask. He sensed these marks were private, part of a story she was not ready to share. Hours passed. Aaron continued monitoring from a distance, occasionally noting the fluctuations and patterns in the readings. Sarah worked without pause, her focus absolute. Occasionally, she would glance at him, measuring his reactions. There was caution in her eyes, but also a flicker of something else, perhaps curiosity or concern. A sudden surge in the core made Aaron jump. Sparks flew along the conduits, and the hum of the reactor rose sharply. Sarah's hand shot out instinctively, her energy shield flaring to absorb the surge. The blue glow intensified as she stabilized the core. "You should not have startled the core," she said sharply, though the concern in her tone was unmistakable. "Humans do not understand its sensitivity." "I am sorry," Aaron said quickly. "I did not touch anything. I was only observing." Her eyes narrowed slightly, then softened. "Observation is different from interference. You humans are reckless, but not all of you." Aaron took a cautious step closer. "Why do you protect it so carefully? Is the core more dangerous than we are told?" Sarah hesitated. For a moment she did not answer, her gaze fixed on the pulsing energy of the core. Then she spoke, her voice quieter. "The core holds more than energy. It holds the work of my people. It is part of our lives. Humans do not understand what it means to lose what you protect." Aaron felt a pang of understanding. He had read about the Varelians' history, their struggle against previous corporations that had exploited them. But hearing it from her brought a new weight. "I want to understand," he said. "I am willing to learn." She looked at him carefully. "Few humans care to understand. Most only take and destroy. Your willingness is unusual." The reactor hummed steadily, and Aaron began to notice patterns in the fluctuations. He made small notes, careful to remain behind the safety boundary. Occasionally, he offered suggestions quietly, but Sarah did not react. She worked with a focus that left no room for error. As the hours passed, Aaron observed another detail. Sarah did not eat or drink. She did not sit. She worked tirelessly, managing the core's delicate balance. He wondered how she sustained her energy. Humans required food and rest, but the Varelians operated differently. He respected her endurance silently, realizing that her people were built for resilience. Finally, the core's readings began to stabilize. The pulsing energy slowed and the hum became even. Aaron let out a breath he did not realize he had been holding. Sarah did not relax, but there was a slight easing in her posture. "You are competent," she said finally, her tone neutral. "Some humans might have caused an accident by now." "I learned from my mistakes," Aaron said modestly. There was a long silence. Then Sarah spoke again, quieter this time. "I should warn you. There are things humans are not told. Secrets about this sector, about the crystals, about the energy. You may not understand, and it may change how you feel about your kind." "I want to know," Aaron said firmly. "I want to understand." Her eyes widened slightly. No Varelian had ever admitted such a desire to a human before. She considered him for a long moment. Finally she spoke, choosing her words carefully. "My people suffered when humans took what we held sacred. Our energy, our life was stolen. Many humans do not care for what they destroy. You are here now, yet you act with respect. That is rare. Adarin nodded. I do not want to destroy anything. I only want to help. For the first time, Sarah allowed a small gesture of trust. She moved slightly, signaling that he could approach. Come closer, she said cautiously. But touch nothing until I say it is safe. Aaron stepped forward, careful with each movement. He noticed the intricate designs along her arms again, the faint glowing scars that seemed almost ceremonial. Are they from the work you do? He asked gently. Sarah looked away as if the question alone was too personal. They are reminders, she said softly. They tell me where I have been, what I have survived. Nothing more. Aaron respected her answer, sensing that pressing further could break the fragile trust forming between them. Instead, he focused on the core, observing her movements. Her hands moved with precision, controlling the energy pulses as if she were part of the reactor itself. As the sun reached its peak, the storm outside intensified. Dust whipped around the dome, creating a faint vibration in the structure. Aaron realized that any mistake now could be catastrophic. Sarah noticed his concern and placed her hand briefly near his shoulder. The touch was fleeting, but it conveyed reassurance rather than warning. You are cautious, she said. That is good. Caution is necessary for survival here. I am learning, he replied. From you? Her eyes met his. There was no warmth yet, but there was recognition. A shared understanding that survival required cooperation, not dominance. The day passed in careful observation, notes, and silent communication. Aaron learned more about the reactor, more about the energy patterns, and more about Sarah's dedication. He realized that her warnings were not simply for her own safety, they were for the safety of everyone around her, including humans who did not understand the power they were dealing with. As evening approached, the readings finally stabilized. The core hummed steadily, and the danger seemed to have passed for now. Aaron packed his tools, preparing to leave. Sarah stood at the entrance, her posture still tense, but slightly more relaxed than in the morning. You performed well today, she said. Few humans would have survived the exposure to the core's fluctuations, and even fewer would have respected the boundaries I set. Thank you, Aaron said sincerely. I could not have done it without your guidance. She considered him for a long moment. Humans rarely listen. Most act first and think later. You are different. Remember this, human. Curiosity alone is not enough. Respect must guide every action. Aaron nodded, understanding her words deeply. He realized that the trust forming between them was fragile. One mistake could destroy it. But he also realized that learning from her could teach him more than any human instructor ever could before leaving the dome. He turned back to her. I will return tomorrow, he said. Her eyes flickered with surprise. No human had ever promised to return. Then I will expect caution, she said. I will not disappoint you, he replied, as he walked back through the red dust of Rexernine. The wind carrying fine particles into his suit, Aaron thought about what he had witnessed. Sarah was more than a protector of the reactor. She was a guardian of her people's legacy, a being shaped by endurance, pain, and determination. Her warnings were not threats. They were lessons, and he had learned them. That night, back in the human quarters, Aaron reviewed his notes. He documented the patterns of the core, the energy fluctuations, and the subtle changes Sarah had made. But he also wrote about her skill, her discipline, and the faint traces of sorrow she carried in her eyes. He realized that understanding her required patience and respect, not force. He lay awake long after the lights of the colony dimmed. The words she had spoken echoed in his mind, secrets about this sector, about the crystals, about the energy. Aaron knew that discovering those secrets would require courage and trust, and he was ready. The Varelian, Sra, had warned him once. He had listened. Tomorrow, he would return, and perhaps he would begin to understand the hidden truth she had so carefully guarded, the story of trust. Curiosity and discovery on Rexernin was growing deeper. and both human and Varelian were about to learn that cooperation, though rare, could achieve what fear alone never could. The next day on Rexer-9 began with a harsh wind that swept across the red dunes, carrying fine dust and tiny shards of crystal. The mining colony seemed quieter than usual. Aaron walked toward the Varelian sector with measured steps. His thoughts were heavy. He had learned a great deal yesterday, but nothing compared to the feeling that the sector held more danger than anyone admitted as he approached the dome. He noticed Sarah standing outside. She was scanning the horizon, her eyes sharp and alert. The faint blue glow of her skin reflected the harsh sunlight. When she saw him, she made no move to step aside. Her expression was unreadable, a mixture of caution and determination. "You are back," she said. "Good. The core readings are stable for now, but the storm may return. You should not have come alone." "I can handle myself," Aaron replied calmly. "Besides, I want to continue learning." She considered him for a long moment. Then she sighed. "Humans rarely seek knowledge without arrogance. You are different. That may be why you survive here." Aaron noted the faint signs of fatigue in her posture. She had been working through the night again, monitoring the core. "You need rest," he said gently. "I do not require rest as you do," she replied. "But I will accept assistance if you offer it properly." Aaron nodded, understanding the unspoken request. He followed her inside the dome, careful not to touch anything without permission. The interior hummed with energy. The core pulsed steadily, glowing softly in the dim light. Sarah moved with precision, adjusting panels and monitoring displays. Aaron took his place near the boundary, observing her every action. Hours passed with minimal speech. The quiet was broken only by the low hum of the reactor and the occasional flicker of warning lights. Suddenly, the monitors flickered red. A severe dust storm had begun outside, blocking communications between the colony sectors. The warning alarms grew louder as wind shook the dome and dust infiltrated the Amacian systems. Sarah's expression hardened. "We are cut off," she said. "If the storm continues, the reactor may fail. We must act quickly." Aaron felt a chill of tension. He realized they were trapped together and survival would depend on cooperation. "What do you need me to do?" he asked. She looked at him carefully. "You will assist in stabilizing the auxiliary circuits. Follow my instructions exactly. One mistake could be fatal." "I understand," he said, moving toward the controls. For the first time, Aaron noticed how demanding her work was. She balanced energy pulses, repaired damaged conduits, and managed the core's volatile reactions with skill that seemed almost impossible. Every movement was precise, and every decision counted. Aaron followed her instructions, matching his actions to hers. Careful and deliberate. Hours passed, and the storm outside worsened. Dust struck the dome with the force of small hammers, rattling the walls and shaking loose crystals. The reactor's hum grew uneven, and the alarms warned of rising instability. "Keep calm," Sarah said sharply. "Panic will destroy more than the storm." Aaron focused, breathing evenly, keeping his hands steady. He followed her directions to reroute energy flows, tighten conduits, and adjust the pulse regulators. For the first time, he understood why the Varelians were so protective of the core. One wrong move could end lives in seconds. As they worked, Sarah glanced at him briefly. Her eyes softened slightly, though she quickly masked it. "You adapt well," she said quietly. "Few humans can keep pace under pressure." Aaron nodded, not letting the praise distract him. "I have learned from the best," he said. The storm raged outside, and the reactor's pulse surged dangerously. Sarah's hand glowed brightly as she stabilized it, but a sudden shockwave knocked Aaron off balance. Sparks flew from a damaged panel. Without thinking, Sarah reached out and grabbed him, her strength holding him steady. "You are reckless," she said, though her voice held concern rather than anger. "I am learning," he replied. For a brief moment, their hands touched. Aaron felt the faint energy radiating from her, not harmful, but powerful. He realized then that her warnings were not threats, they were lessons. And in that instant, a fragile bond formed, built on trust and shared purpose. Hours turned into a long, tense night. The storm outside showed no signs of slowing. The reactor pulsed unevenly, demanding constant attention. Aaron and Sarah moved as a team, anticipating each other's actions. He observed her techniques, noted her methods, and began to understand the rhythm of her work. At one point, Aaron noticed her pause, her glowing hands trembling slightly as she absorbed a sudden surge of energy from the core. The strain was visible, even to him. "You are pushing yourself too hard," he said, his voice steady. "I am protecting more than the reactor," she replied. "I am protecting lives, human and Varelian alike. If the core fails, this sector will be destroyed." Aaron nodded, understanding the gravity of her responsibility. He had seen dangerous situations before, but never like this. He realized that survival on Rexernan required courage, skill, and a willingness to face the unknown. The storm finally began to ease as dawn approached. Dust settled, and the hum of the reactor grew steady once again. They had survived the night, and the core was stable. Sarah stepped back, her posture easing slightly. "You performed well," she said. "Few humans could endure what you did. You did not panic, and you did not interfere without cause." "Thank you," Aaron said quietly. "I could not have done it without your guidance." There was a long pause. Sarah's eyes lingered on him, thoughtful. "I must tell you something," she said finally. "About why I warned you the first time. Humans have caused harm here before. My people suffered greatly. Many were lost. The scars you see on my arms, they are reminders of what was taken from us." Aaron studied her carefully, noting the faint patterns glowing on her skin. "I understand," he said softly. "I will not repeat their mistakes." She nodded, a faint flicker of trust in her eyes. "Good. That is why we survived tonight. Trust and respect can be more powerful than strength or skill. Remember this." For the first time, Aaron felt a connection with her that went beyond mere cooperation. He realized that she was not just a guardian of the reactor. She was a guardian of her people, their history, and their survival. Her warnings, her strength, and her endurance were all part of a larger story he had only begun to understand. As they stepped outside, the sun rose fully, casting long shadows across the red dunes. The storm had left a fragile calm. Aaron looked at Sarah, realizing that their survival had required more than skill, it had required trust. And trust between human and Varelian was rare, fragile, and precious. "You will return tomorrow," Sarah said, her voice firm but not harsh. "I will," Aaron replied, "and I will continue to learn." She studied him for a moment, then turned her attention to the horizon. "Good. Knowledge is only valuable if it is guided by respect. Remember that, human." As Aaron walked back to the human sector, he felt a sense of purpose he had not known before. The Varelian sector was dangerous, yes, but it was also a place of discovery. And discovery required courage, patience, and the willingness to understand others. That night he reviewed his notes. He wrote down the patterns of the reactor, the techniques Sarah had used, and the small, subtle gestures of trust she had shown him. He reflected on the night's events, understanding that survival had depended on cooperation and respect. He realized that humans could learn much from the Varelians if they only approached with care and humility. For Sarah, the night was quieter, but not peaceful. She monitored the reactor remotely, ensuring the core remained stable. She thought about the human who had stayed by her side, who had followed her instructions, and who had respected her warnings. Few humans ever earned such trust. She was cautious, yet a faint hope stirred within her that not all humans were destructive. The bond forming between them was subtle, built on actions rather than words. It was fragile, but it was growing. And in the harsh environment of Rexarnan, where danger and mystery lurked at every turn, that bond was more valuable than any tool, weapon, or piece of technology. By the following morning, the storm had cleared completely. Aaron returned to the Varelian sector, ready to continue the work of observation, learning, and careful cooperation. He understood that the path ahead would be difficult, but he was willing to follow it. For the first time, he felt that humans and Varelians could work together. Even in a place as unforgiving as Rex or -9, the alliance no one expected had begun, and neither human nor Varelian could predict how far it would go or what challenges lay ahead. But both knew one thing: cooperation, trust, and courage were stronger than fear or prejudice. And that knowledge, above all else, could change the future of their world. The morning sky over Rexernan was a harsh orange, the sun striking the jagged rocks with blinding intensity. Aaron walked toward the Varelian sector, his mind still heavy from yesterday's storm. He had learned to anticipate the reactor's behavior, to understand Sarah's precise methods, and respect the fragile trust forming between them. But today something felt different. As he approached the dome, he noticed movement at the perimeter. Human security teams, heavily armed, were advancing toward the reactor. Their leader, a stern man named Commander Tavin, shouted orders that echoed across the red dunes. "Sarah." Tavin's voice was sharp and commanding. "Step away from the reactor. You are under arrest." "Stop resisting immediately." Aaron froze. He had expected storms, instability, and danger from the reactor, but not a confrontation with his own people. Sarah turned slowly, her glowing blue skin reflecting the sunlight. Her eyes met Aaron's, filled with alarm and a fierce determination. "They lie," she said calmly. "I am not resisting. I am protecting the core. Step aside, or we will use force," Tavin repeated. Aaron realized that the security team had no understanding of the core's instability. If they attempted to remove Sarah, the reactor could fail instantly. "Commander," Aaron called out, running toward them. "She is not resisting. She is stabilizing the core. Any sudden movement could cause an explosion." Tavin's eyes narrowed. "You are a human technician. You should know the law. Step aside and let us take her." "I know the law," Aaron said firmly, "but I also know this core is unstable. If you force her, everyone here will die. You will regret it." Sarah's hand flickered faintly with energy as she stepped closer to Aaron. "You see, human? This is why I warned you. Your kind does not understand the consequences of their actions." Aaron held his ground. "I understand enough. I will not allow harm to come to her or the reactor." Tavin raised his hand, signaling his team to advance. The Varelian's energy flared brightly in response. Sparks shot along the walls of the reactor dome, illuminating the tension in the air. Aaron realized that diplomacy had failed. He had to act quickly to prevent disaster. "Sarah, we must stabilize the core." He shouted over the hum of energy. She nodded, her focus returning to the reactor. Blue energy flared from her hands as she guided the surging pulses back into rhythm. Aaron worked alongside her, rerouting energy, tightening conduits, and following her precise instructions. The human security team hesitated as the core's hum grew louder and more erratic. Suddenly, one of the security officers reached for Sarah. In an instant, the energy surged violently. Sparks flew and a shockwave knocked Aaron to the ground. Sarah's hands glowed intensely as she absorbed the pulse, shielding the entire room. Her body trembled under the strain. "Step back." Aaron shouted, struggling to his feet. "Do not touch her." Tavin hesitated, unsure of how to proceed. The core's instability was now visible, the glowing energy dancing along the conduits like lightning. One wrong move, and the entire dome would explode. Sarah's breathing was heavy, her energy shield flickering under the extreme pressure. "I warned you, human," she said, her voice strained. "Now you understand." Aaron moved closer to her, supporting her with his own strength. "We can get through this together," he said. "Just hold on." For a long moment, the room was silent, except for the hum of the reactor. Then the energy pulsed violently again, stronger than before. Aaron realized that the core was nearing a critical point. He glanced at Tavin and the security team. "Move back." He shouted, "You cannot force her. If you do, we all die." The commander finally nodded, pulling his team back to a safe distance. Sarah's hands flared brightly, and a wave of energy radiated through the room. Aaron felt it push against him, but he held firm, following her instructions carefully. Slowly, the core began to stabilize. The hum softened, the sparks vanished, and the conduits glowed with a steady light. Sarah sank to one knee, exhausted but alive. Her glowing skin dimmed slightly as she recovered from the strain. Aaron moved beside her, supporting her gently. "You did it," he said softly. "We survived." Sarah looked at him, her eyes filled with a mixture of relief and disbelief. "You risked everything," she said quietly. "Not many humans would do what you just did." "I am not like the others," Aaron replied. "I care about more than rules or orders. I care about life." Tension remained, however. The security team still watched cautiously, unsure whether to intervene again. Tavin stepped forward, his expression hard. "Human, you will face consequences for this. She is accused of theft and sabotage. You cannot protect her." Aaron shook his head. "She did nothing wrong. She saved lives, including yours." "You are blind to the truth." Sarah slowly stood, her strength returning. She addressed Tavin with authority. "You cannot understand what I protect. My people's lives, the reactor, and the energy within. If you force me, you will destroy more than you know." Tavin hesitated, realizing that Aaron and Sarah had survived the core's instability through skill, coordination, and trust. For the first time, he questioned his orders. The tension was broken by a sudden surge from the core. Sparks shot into the air, and the hum grew deafening. Aaron and Sarah reacted instantly. She absorbed the surge with her energy shield, but the strain caused her to stumble. Aaron moved quickly, supporting her as she fell. "You cannot do this alone," he said urgently. "I know," she admitted, her voice strained. "That is why I needed your help. You are different from the humans who caused pain in the past. You understand respect." They worked together to stabilize the core once more. Aaron rerouted energy, tightened conduits, and followed her precise instructions. Slowly, the pulsing energy returned to a steady rhythm. The alarm ceased, and the dome's hum normalized. Sarah sank to the ground, exhausted but alive. Aaron knelt beside her, checking her condition. "You are safe now," he said. She looked at him, her eyes softening. "For the first time, human, I believe not all your kind will destroy what they do not understand. You risked yourself to protect more than the reactor. You protected life." Aaron smiled faintly. "I only did what was right. That is all anyone can do." Tavin, observing from a distance, finally spoke. "Perhaps I misjudged the situation." His tone carried a hint of respect, though he did not lower his authority completely. Sarah stood slowly, regaining her composure. "You will remember this day, Commander. Trust and respect can achieve what force alone never will. The reactor is stabilized because of cooperation, not dominance." Aaron helped her walk toward the exit. The storm had passed, leaving the red dunes bathed in harsh sunlight. Dust swirled lightly around them, and the reactor dome stood intact, a testament to their teamwork. As they stepped outside, Aaron realized the significance of what had occurred. Humans and Varelians had faced a life-or-death situation together and survived through trust, respect, and cooperation. It was rare, fragile, and powerful. Sarah looked at him, her glowing blue skin dimmed slightly from exhaustion. "You have learned much, human, but the lessons are only beginning. There are more secrets, more dangers. If you wish to continue, you must be ready." "I am ready," Aaron replied firmly. "I want to understand. I want to help." For the first time, Sarah allowed herself to hope. She had seen humans who brought destruction, humans who took without understanding. But Aaron was different. He had earned a place in her trust, and she would guide him carefully. The day ended with a quiet understanding. The alliance they had formed was fragile, but it was real. Both knew that future challenges would be harder. But they also knew that cooperation could achieve what force alone never could. As night fell over Rexernine, Aaron returned to the human quarters, reflecting on the events of the day. Sarah had faced danger and risked herself to protect the reactor, and he had followed her lead, saving lives in the process. He understood that survival on this planet depended not only on skill and courage, but also on trust and respect for Sarah. The night was filled with reflection as well. She had allowed a human into her world, risked exposure, and discovered someone willing to act with care and understanding. That trust, once formed, was powerful, and she knew it could shape the future of humans and Varelians alike. The story of trust, cooperation, and survival on Rexernand had reached a critical point. The bonds formed between Aaron and Sarah would be tested. The secrets of the sector revealed, and the courage of both human and Varelian measured. The dawn on Rexernine was unusually calm. The red sunlight reflected off the jagged cliffs and crystals, bathing the mining colony in a warm glow. After the previous day's storm and confrontation, Aaron felt both relief and anticipation. He had learned much from Sarah, but he knew their journey was far from over. Aaron arrived at the Varelian sector early. Sarah was already there, moving slowly along the reactor dome's perimeter. The faint glow of her skin shimmered in the morning light, and for the first time, she seemed at ease. Her posture, though still disciplined, was lighter, as if the near catastrophe had passed. "You are punctual," she said, her voice calm but observant. "I would not miss this," Aaron replied. "We have work to do," she nodded. "The core is stable, but readings indicate minor fluctuations. We must continue monitoring. Your assistance will be valuable." Aaron followed her inside the dome. The reactor hummed steadily, glowing softly in the dim light. The experience of the previous days had taught him to anticipate the energy patterns, to understand the subtle shifts, and to respect the boundaries Sarah set. He moved with care, checking instruments and recording observations without overstepping. Sarah worked beside him, guiding his hands when necessary, but allowing him to act independently whenever possible. Slowly, the rhythm of cooperation became seamless. Aaron realized that they were no longer simply teacher and student. They were partners, facing the reactor's dangers together. Suddenly, the communication panel flickered to life. A voice came through, tense and commanding. "Sarah, step away from the reactor. You are under investigation for theft of energy crystals. Human assistance is irrelevant. Stand down immediately." Aaron recognized the voice. It was Commander Tavin. Sarah's glowing eyes narrowed. "They do not understand," she said quietly. "They see only accusations, not truth."
"I know,"
Aaron said firmly. "But we cannot let them interfere again. The reactor could fail if they try." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Sarah gestured toward the auxiliary panels. "We must focus on stabilization. They will not act while the core is secure. Help me reroute the energy flows." Together they worked. Aaron adjusted the conduits, rerouted the energy pulses, and followed Sarah's precise instructions. The core pulsed steadily, glowing softly, responding to their coordinated efforts. Hours passed, and the human investigation teams remained at a cautious distance, unsure how to act without risking disaster. Aaron and Sarah moved as one, their actions precise, synchronized, and deliberate. Finally, the reactor's energy readings reached a perfect balance. The hum became steady and calm. Sarah sank to one knee, exhausted but unharmed. Aaron knelt beside her, checking the instruments and ensuring the core was truly stable. "You did well," Sarah said softly. "Your presence and guidance have helped more than you realize. Few humans would endure this, and fewer would act with such respect." "I only followed your lead," Aaron replied. "You taught me everything." Sarah studied him for a long moment. Then she spoke, her voice quiet but firm. "Humans often forget what it means to care, to respect, to protect. You remembered. That is why you survived. That is why we succeeded." Aaron felt a warmth in his chest. He realized that her words were not praise alone. They were recognition of trust, of a bond formed under extreme circumstances. He had not only helped stabilize the reactor, but had earned the respect of a Varelian in a way no human before had, as they stood. The communication panel flickered again. This time, the human supervisor's voice was cautious. "The reactor is stable. We acknowledge that your cooperation is necessary. We will observe and review. No action will be taken against you or your assistant at this time." Sarah's eyes softened slightly. "Finally," she murmured. "Some humans can learn, if they are willing." Aaron smiled faintly. I am willing, and I will continue to learn. For the first time, Sarah allowed herself to hope. She had seen humans who brought destruction, humans who took without understanding. But Aaron was different. He had risked his life, followed instructions, and respected boundaries. Trust had been given and earned. Over the following days, Aaron continued his work in the Varelian sector. He observed Sarah closely, noting her techniques, her endurance, and her understanding of the reactor. She allowed him to assist in increasingly complex tasks, testing his skill and judgment. Together, they repaired minor damages, optimized the energy flow, and ensured the reactor's long-term stability. Through this work, Aaron learned more than technical skills. He began to understand the Varelian culture, their respect for energy, and the importance of protecting what is valuable. Sarah shared stories of her people, their struggles, and their resilience. Each story strengthened Aaron's understanding and his bond with her. One evening, after a long day of work, Aaron and Sarah stepped outside the dome. The red sky was calm, stars beginning to appear. The desert wind whispered through the crystal formations, carrying a faint hum from the planet itself. "You have changed things here," Sarah said quietly. "Your presence has shown my people that some humans can be trusted. That trust is fragile, but it is a start." "I am honored," Aaron said. "I only did what I thought was right. I did not expect recognition." "You have earned more than recognition," she said. "You have earned understanding. That is rare, human. Never forget it." As they walked together toward the edge of the dome, Aaron noticed her gaze lingering on the horizon. "Do you ever think about the future?" he asked. "All the time," Sarah replied. "We cannot survive by reacting alone. We must plan, learn, and trust those who are willing to walk beside us." Aaron nodded. "Then we can do it together. Humans and Varelians. If we respect each other, there is much we can achieve." She looked at him, a faint smile forming. "Perhaps you are right. Perhaps this is the beginning of something new." Days turned into weeks. Aaron and Sarah continued their work, teaching each other, learning together, and building a fragile alliance. The human colony began to notice changes in the Varelian sector: less hostility, more cooperation, and a careful respect between species. Word of Aaron's courage and dedication spread, inspiring other humans to approach the Varelians with caution and care. One morning, the colony council visited the reactor dome. They were impressed to see Aaron and Sarah working side by side, fully synchronized, and maintaining the reactor at peak stability. The council members had expected chaos, but instead they saw harmony, skill, and trust. "Human, you have done more than we imagined," one council member said. "Your actions have proven that cooperation between species is possible. Your example will guide future interactions." Aaron glanced at Sarah. She nodded slightly. Her glowing blue skin dimmed in the morning light, but her eyes bright with pride. Together they had achieved something extraordinary. Not just technical success, but understanding, trust, and respect. Later that day, Sarah turned to Aaron. "You touched my life, human," she said softly, "and I do not regret it." Aaron smiled. "Neither do I," he replied. "We have learned from each other, and we have saved lives. That is what matters." As the sun set over Rexernan, Aaron and Sarah stood side by side, watching the red sky fade into night. Stars twinkled above, distant but brilliant, like beacons of possibility. They knew the challenges were far from over, but they had proven that trust, courage, and cooperation could overcome fear, misunderstanding, and prejudice. The alliance they had formed was fragile. Yes, but it was strong enough to inspire change. Humans and Varelians could learn from each other, respect each other, and protect each other. And in a universe filled with danger and uncertainty, that was more valuable than any technology, any resource, or any victory. Aaron turned to Sarah one last time before leaving the dome. "Tomorrow we continue," he said. She nodded. "And the day after, and the day after that. As long as we remember what matters, we will endure." Together, they walked back toward the colony, side by side, human and Varelian, partners in survival. guardians of knowledge and symbols of hope. The story of Rexer 9 had reached a new chapter, one where trust and courage had changed the course of history, and as the stars shone brightly over the red deserts, Aaron realized that the human who once hesitated at a warning had become a bridge between worlds. Remembered not for orders or rules, but for respect, understanding, and the courage to act when it mattered most. The planet was harsh. The challenges were many. But together, human and Varelian had proven that cooperation, trust, and hope could achieve what fear and separation never could. The future of Rexarnine was uncertain, yet brighter than ever before.